Today is Tuesday, Wednesday, January 14th, 2026, and today is a wonderful day. Let me tell you something. We are live with the World of Warcraft pre-patch. Boys, welcome to WOW with Flamyz, Episode 1, Choosing Your Class. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have played World of Warcraft for many years. Hold on, one second. Many years. I'm no expert, but I am a nerd. I'm a World of Warcraft nerd. So I'm here to guide you all on this journey. A little too big. Here to guide you on this journey. For welcome to World of Warcraft with Flamyz Wednesday. Welcome to WOW with Flamyz Wednesday, Episode 1, Choosing Your Class. Now, boys, World of Warcraft is broken down into a simple kind of trio, a very common trend in video games, the Holy Trinity. As you can see on our right over here, our left over here, you have three roles that most classes can fill into: the tank, which is checked, the damage, and the healer. Without one, the other cannot survive. So you need all of them. All three classes to survive. All three races. All three trinities, if you will. The jobs are pretty simple. The tank holds aggro, absorbs damage. Healer keeps everyone alive, low damage. DPS, kill the mobs, don't pull aggro. Okay? Very straightforward. Very straightforward. So we might be asking, well, Flamyz, that's pretty nice and all, but slow down, you taking notes? Slow down a little bit. That's pretty nice and all, but well, what are some of the tanks? What if I want to play a tank? Sounds pretty nice. Glad you asked. Tanking. Tanking is very straightforward. It's actually probably one of the more difficult of the, it's probably the most difficult of the three, if I'm going to be honest. First of all, three classes can tank: Druids, Warriors, and Paladins. Feral Druids, Prot Warriors, Protection Paladins. Those are specializations. We'll get into that later. Don't worry, boys. We'll get into that later. Just kind of a basic little breakdown of tanking. You mark some targets with the kill order. Certain mobs you got to crowd control. You know, you got your skull, X, triangle, square, moon, nipple, and of course the star. And when you're in a dungeon, you'll like pull packs. You'll LOS when necessary, which means pull them behind a wall. I could have had a little graphic, but I didn't have that. Keep aggro of all the mobs. Very important. Number one importance on the rule of tanking. Generate enough threat to prevent your DPS from pulling off of you. And your healers. As you can see right here. Point number 4. Don't let the healer die. Don't let the healer die. And always make sure you're paying attention to party resources. Of course, when you lose aggro of a mob, you taunt them off. Use cooldowns when a big bad does lots of damage. Simple. Again, Feral Druid, Prot Warrior, Prot Paladin. We'll get into that later. Next on the list. What is it? Damage? It is damage. I thought it was healer. That's why I said it like that. I thought it was healer. Damage. The easiest of the three roles of the Holy Trinity, if you will. Very straightforward. The music's too loud, boys. Music's too loud. Way too loud. My bad. Damage. DPS. Damage per second is what it's short for. Very straightforward. Rule number 1, deal damage. Focus the correct targets. Either marked, or sometimes if there's no marks, you gotta target your tank. Look at what the tank's attacking. Attack the tank's target, okay? Now, don't you don't want to do too much damage, because each thing does threat, each damage spell does threat. That's not very important right now. You don't want to pull aggro the mobs. Let the tank pull aggro. If you see the mobs start attacking you, a creature start attacking you, you back off, okay? Back off. Let the tank do the work. Interrupt important spell casts. A lot of times you'll see caster mobs maybe healing. Maybe, let me clip on. Maybe casting a pyroblast that you need to interrupt before it one-shots a healer. So you gotta be on top of that. And then when asked to, crowd control enemies. You gotta dispel sometimes. And typically they're separated by either ranged or melee. Okay? As you can see on the left here, we have melee classes highlighted in orange. Orange is a pretty good color. That would be your druid, warrior, paladin, shaman, and of course rogue. And you have your ranged classes highlighted, circled, squared by a blue square. Warlock, priest, mage, shaman, I guess I could be using my mouse, hunter, and of course, druid. Now you might notice these can do both. That's because they're good. I don't know. And last but not least, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, okay? But once we start rating, the most important rule, do not become a parse monkey, okay? Assignments first, damage second. Okay? Very important. Healing! Next on the list, healing. Goal number 1, keep everyone alive. Prioritize healers and tanks. Without the healers, everyone dies. Without the tanks, everyone also dies. Without the damage, we'll be fine, okay? We'll be fine. We want to heal everyone, but we got a list. We got a list. You change the healer? Well, hopefully this little presentation will help you out a little bit. As healer, you want to manage your mana. Don't spam your spells, or your heals will be wasted, you'll overheal, and on top of that, you'll run out of mana. Okay? Let the party know when you're and drinking out of combat. Now, this is kind of like dungeon. I'm kind of realizing this now. This might be a little step above a starter guide because we're kind of talking about dungeons and raids and all this stuff. But again, you gotta just like spam in the chat. I'm boy. Stop pulling, okay? Stop pulling. Let's party when you pull aggro. Cooldowns necessary. And then when you're in raid, you're normally either assigned to the party heals or the tank heals or whatever. And that's gonna be your druid, your paladin, your resto shaman, and if you're playing a priest, you can be holy or discipline. Now you might think that's all we have, but no. Now we gotta get into the classes a little bit more. So first on the list, druid. Druids. A druid in World of Warcraft is the ultimate all-around class. One character that can tank, heal, or deal damage, depending on your spec and what you shapeshift into. Again, the only class that can fulfill 4 roles. You can wear leather armor, you can shapeshift, they're versatile. Lots of utility with Rebirth and Innervate. Rebirth, the only battle res. Sorry, this way. The only battle res, Rebirth. Innervate, use when you're low on mana. When someone's low on mana, they'll call it for an Innervate. That's your job, okay? Oh, shit. Don't look, okay. And Proof Fairy Fire. Mark of the Wild. A nice buff that gives stats to all, stats and armor to everyone. And boys, the specs, the important part. What you're actually going to be playing if you pick Druid. These are your options. Feral is broken down into 2 categories. Tanking and DPS. Tank, you're going to be in bear form. Druids can take on the form of a durable bear or savage cat in order to claw and bite their enemies up close. Is that not a good description or what, boys? Mostly, they're the best at single target threats. And they do more damage than all the other tanks. Large health pool, they're good for soaking damage. And they get a nice little buff called, what is it, Party of the Pack of the Wild? Pack of the Druid? Druid Pack, Feral Pack? But you get 5% melee and range crit chance. Now these little buffs, as we're kind of talking about them, you'll see Party right there, right there, right there. You'll notice that every single class kind of provides its own utility in that aspect. So while there are some that do more damage, do more healing, tank better, at the end of the day, you want all of them because we work together. We build these blocks up and together. We can build a castle of nerds. And they use Rage as a resource. Rage is something that you kind of build up as you attack, and then you spend it compared to the traditional mana. Next on the list, Feral DPS Cats, the other kind of specialization within Feral Druids. They use energy as a resource because you're in cat form, combo points, and they do have a slightly difficult rotation. They got a lot of macros and power shifting. That's a lot to get into. If you go down the path of Feral Druid, you kind of got to commit because they're kind of not great. Okay, they're kind of not great, and they are kind of difficult to play, if I remember correctly. Balance. Next on the Druid list. Dude, this is going to be long. This is going to be long. Moonkins. Moonkin form. Druids can take on the form of a wild moonkin to blast enemies from afar. They use mana as a resource. They have a very easy rotation. They're not as competitive on DPS. Okay. Not as competitive. But they provide 5% spell crit, which is very, very good. And we're kind of recruiting a balanced druid right now. If you know anyone, easy to play. You just got to stand there and push Starfire over and over, basically one button. I'm just saying. Caster. I don't have that on here, but they are a caster. They're a ranged DPS caster. And yeah, that's balanced. That's balanced. Resto Druids! The first healer we are talking about. By calling upon the powers of nature, Druids are able to swiftly restore health to their injured allies. Now, I would argue it's not very swift because Druids are all HOTS, which means heal over time. They do provide a nice party buff of plus 25% healing. That's not true. It's 25% of their spirit as bonus healing. Or something like that. Or something like that. I think they're slightly harder to play because as using heal over times, hot. They're slightly harder because of HOTS. You kind of have to be predictive with the damage. You gotta know what's coming. If your tank gets chunked down to 20% health and you start throwing your HOTS on him then, he's gonna die, okay? So you gotta have the HOTS kind of rolling to prepare yourself, prepare your tank. And they're incredible PvP. Incredible PvP. I will say quick before we go to the next slide, this is the hardest and most time I've ever spent on a PowerPoint. All my school projects or anything. This is it. This is right here. This is my Carpe Diem. And in the frame. Next slide. Hunters! Hunters are first of the pure DPS class. They're ranged with every specialization, physical damage. Oh yeah, Copies, we got one for everyone, man. Ranged with every specialization. They have a pet. They're mana-based. A simple rotation. I don't know if that's true. They do have ammo in their bags, so it's a little bit tedious. You gotta carry ammo in your bags, and you gotta carry food for your pet, of course. Because you can't not feed your pet, or it won't get happy and it'll run away. That's actually true. It will run away if you don't feed your pet. They have a nice buff that's nature resistance, everyone. You don't really use it too much, but it is nice when you need it. Not great AoE. And they have a couple bingo bongos right here. Misdirection. Magical for PvE. Very, very good for pulling, helping your tank get threat. I don't have a link on this because it was early in the... Okay. Feign Death, which if you get a little too ahead of yourself, you start pumping a little bit too much, you pull threat, you can Feign Death, reset the threat, and they go back to your tank. A little bit advanced for a basic thing, but they also have traps. They use bows, guns, and crossbows, and they can wear up to mail armor. Now you might say Flamyz. You said they're the only pure DPS class, but they have 3 specializations. What's the point of that? Well, let me tell you right here. Beastmaster is the first one, a master of the wild who can tame a wide variety of beasts to assist them in combat. Okay. Beastmaster, one of the best DPS with a very simple rotation, and they prioritize kind of using their pet. Their gun doesn't do much. Their pet does all the work, and you kind of sit back, put your hands up. And more importantly, plus 3% damage when pet crits. Again, you see all these kind of little buffs. So now we have 5% crit, 5% melee crit from a feral druid, 3% damage from pets. You start kind of stacking these things together, and I'm telling you, boys, this is how you build the castle up. Next on the list, survival. A rugger tracker who favors using animal venom, explosives, and traps as deadly weapons. Exposed weakness is very, very, very good. They're viable as DPS. They are worse than BM, so typically, in kind of a min-maxed 25-man raid, you won't have more than one. Exposed weakness. Your range critical have a 100% chance to multiply both these targets. Increases the attack power of all attackers against that target by 25% of your agility. So now you can see where I'm going with this, right? Bring one, use that, everyone does more damage. There's a lot of utility in World of Warcraft. Don't look. A lot of utility. We got lots of utility. Marksmanship. Again, they do have a buff. 125 AP, which is attack power. To all the people in your party. So I feel like I'm yelling a little bit. Try to address the class. They are the weakest of 3 DPS classes, and they use ranged weapons. A master archer or sharpshooter who excels in bringing down enemies from afar. Now, I will say these are not ChatGPT, just so we're all on the same page. But they are from Wowhead. Okay. That's Hunter. Most people play BM. You run 1 survival. You don't really play marksman unless you want to, because we're not going with too much of a try-hard, sweaty min-max guild, okay? If you want to play marksman, play marksman. Now, if you're playing marksman and you're not doing any damage at all, we might have a conversation. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Next on the list, Mage! Mage! This is not a pretty slide. Not a pretty slide. I think I rushed this one a little bit. I think this was done right around lunchtime, in my defense. Another pure DPS class. Another pure DPS class. They're the master of the arcane elements. They are a ranged caster DPS. Before we had a ranged physical DPS, now we got ranged caster DPS. Why is that important, Flamyz? It's important because kind of the buffs that you do depend on if you're ranged. No, depend on if you're a caster or melee. You kind of buff casters, or you buff physical damage. Zip. They have arcane intellect buffed. Arcane intellect, which just gives int to everyone in your party. Okay. Basic buff. Great at AoE. Polymorph, one of the best crowd control spells. Counterspell, they are a vending machine. Mana, simple resource, simple rotation. One of the best DPS throughout all of TBC. Good defensives with stuff such as Frostblock, Mana Shield, Invisibility. Those are just words to people that don't play WoW. I realize that now. But they are good spells. Okay, you gotta believe me. Silver Cloth Armor. And these are the 3 specializations. Arcane! Manipulate the arcane, destroying enemies with overwhelming power. They're very mana intensive and they do great DPS in short fights. They are more difficult due to their management. Because if you go to mana, you do 0 damage. So you gotta manage your mana. Okay? You with me? Write that down. Fire Mage, next on the list. Ignite enemies with balls of fire and combustive flames. Good DPS, simple rotation. And they do buff fire and destroy warlocks. They have a Scorch debuff that increases fire damage taken. So they also buff other fire mages. They're kind of nice in clusters. They're like a pack of wolves, if you will. Fire mage wolves. And Frost Mage is not very good in PvE. Okay, this is strictly a PvE guide, but they have lots of CC and they are incredible PvP. So that's an option as well. Paladins! We're almost some of the way done. Paladins can fill any role. They have lots of aura. They are melee only, so while they can fill any role, they cannot be ranged. Is that truly any role? Technically, yes. They wear plate armor. They have blessings such as Blessing of Might, Blessing of Might, Blessing of Wisdom, Blessing of Kings, Blessing of Salvation. One gives AP, one gives mana, one gives stats, one gives threat. You can have more than one buff, but as a paladin, you can only buff one class with one buff. Does that make sense? One person with one buff. So if you have 4 paladins, you get all the buffs. 1 paladin, you get 1 buff. They're all good. Bring more paladins. Paladin's very good. Avenging Wrath. They do have a bubble, which is a immunity. Sorry, bubble, bop, and freedom are kind of their big three of their big ticket items. Okay. Oops. Here we go. Blessing of Freedom. Gives someone, it removes their movement impairing effects. Okay, it makes them immune. So if someone gets slowed, they got to get out of an AoE or something. I don't know if that's a thing in TBC, but in retail, it's helpful. Blessing of Protection, very good spell. If someone pulls aggro that's not supposed to have aggro, you can bop them. They lose all threat. They become immune to physical damage. And the mobs run back to the tank. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. What was the other one? Divine Shield. That's self bubble. That's good. That's good. Full screen. Oh, Priest, don't look. And they are man user as well. Where is Steel Twisting on this bitch? Okay, I'm glad you asked. Retribution, DPS. A righteous crusader who judges and punishes opponents through weapons. With weapons and holy magic. They are 2-handed DPS. They have a difficult rotation because of Steel Twisting. I thought I put something in here, but maybe I didn't. They got Sanctity Aura, which gives everyone in your party holy damage. Now, why is this good? It's not. Paladins are very... Uh-oh. Did the internet die? Hello? Is this thing on? Okay, well, that link doesn't work. You just have to believe me, I guess. Sanctity Aura gives holy damage buff to everyone in the party, which is only good for paladins. Very selfish class, if you ask me. Very selfish class. Seal Twisting is a very complex, not really that complex because it is classic World of Warcraft, TBC that is. Not very complex, but at the same time kind of complex. Where what you do is think of it like you're, think of it like you're trying to two-tick in RuneScape for the RuneScape players out there. Right? You have a little, like, 6-second window where you have one seal on, Seal of Command, I believe. Then as you're about to hit, when your window gets close enough, you swap to another seal, and you hit it with both of them. It's like a da-dum, da-dum. Now, if you do that, Paladin DPS is very, very good. If you don't do that, it's not that good. It's still okay. Protection Paladin! Use holy magic to shield themselves and defend allies from attackers. Was that pretty good, Snakeup? Did I hit that? Spell Power Melee Tank. What does that mean? They use Consecration, bring all the mobs in. They are the best at AoE threat. And they have defensive auras. I don't know, I just put that there because they do have a lot of auras. They have protection to just physical, which is called armor in World of Warcraft. They have frost resist, they have fire resist, they got shadow resist, they got concentration aura, which helps you cast when you're getting hit. Very, very good. Again, 1 aura per paladin. So if you stack paladins, you get lots of aura. Okay? Holy paladins! Holy moly! That's a good healer! Invokes the power of light to protect and heal. Strongest single target healer. Typically goes on the tank. Okay? Keep the tank up. You gotta spam him. One of the easier healers because if you're focused on the tank, all you gotta do is make sure that guy doesn't die. You don't gotta worry about everyone else. Just worry about him. And they have the best oh shit button in the game, which is land hands. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're sitting there, your cat jumps on your mouse, your keyboard. Get down, cat. But the tank's 1 health. Boom, land hands. What does land hands do? Heals a friendly target for the amount equal to paladin's maximum health. And it drains all your mana. An hour-long cooldown. So it's like, oh shit, I forgot to heal him. Now I push land hands. Bring him back to life. Basically. Basically. Very good though. Very, very good. Priests! Next on the list, boys. Versatile class. Kind of. They're not really. I don't know why I put that on there. They do work cloth mana. They have lots of support. They have 2 healing specializations, actually. One's kind of a hybrid. They're squishy. A little bit lower damage. And they have fortitude. Very, very, very good buff. Gives you stamina. Stamina's health. Shackle Undead. Master Spell. Good spells. Good spells. Good spells. Land hands for all classes. That's true. All paladins do have land hands. But I figured with the healer, that's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. So all paladins have land hands. True. My bad. Priest. Discipline. Oh, dude, I'm running out of breath. This is harder than it looks. Uses magic to shield allies from taking damage as well as heal their wounds. The wounds. Mainly a healing spec, but can be slightly hybrid. We had someone mention Smite Priests in the chat. I don't know how viable it is, and you'd kind of have to do your own build. I'm sure you can find some nerds out there because it is World of Warcraft and everyone has that everything. So someone has made a Smite Priest at some point, but it is not as viable as the other priests, so you don't really see it. But hey, if you want to try it, more power to you. They have huge cooldowns. I learned after the fact because I don't play priest that pain suppression, all priests have pain suppression. But PI is like a nice little damage cooldown that you give to someone. It's like 20% damage or haste or something. I forgot the hyperlink. And this is typically the PvP healer. Holy Priest. Holy Paladin and Holy Priest? Yes, they're both called Holy. A versatile healer can reverse damage on individuals. Reverse damage? Is that saying healing? Is that a fancy way to say healing? Or groups. And even heal from beyond the grave. They do get about 5 seconds after they die to heal. Just in case. Which is nice. Typically they're a raid heal because they have lots of AoE healing. As we see in point number 3. One of the easier healers. I don't know if that's true. I kind of just wanted 3. Just 3 is the magic number. So I put that in there. Healing, I think, overall is a little bit more difficult than DPS. Slightly easier than tank. Tank, you gotta kind of know what everyone can do. And then Shadow Priests. As they fade into darkness, they use sinister shadow magic, especially with damage over time spells, to eradicate enemies. Big utility. Vampiric Touch and Vampiric Embrace. These spells, very, very good. Afflict your target with shadow energy. Causes all party members to be healed for 15% of the damage you deal. Bam. Bam. Just passively. Just passively. Stays on for 1 minute. Just 15% healed. And then Vampiric Touch. You'll typically put them in the kind of a caster group, because with this buff, they gain 5% of the mana of the 5% mana of the shadow damage you deal. So you got an arcane mage who's mana intensive. All classes are actually mana intensive. Little flam factory right there. Flam fact. So you put them in the caster group. Put them in the caster group. Dots is their main damage, and they do have a shadow debuff that gives 10% bonus damage to shadow. Whoa, that threw me back in my chair. 10% damage, that's crazy. That is very good. Warlocks love a good shadow priest, okay? Love a good shadow priest. Next up, rogues. The stealthy assassins. Melee DPS only, they're sneaky. They use energy like our friend the Feral Druid. Cat form, that is. Combo points, they kind of build up combo points on a target by using certain spells, and then they use finishers to consume those combo points. They're the best PvP class, and I put that on there to try to not be negative, but we'll get to the negativity in a little bit. They wear leather armor, they can dual wield, they have exposed armor, which is pretty good because it reduces the armor of targets, which is nice. So when a target has lower armor, physical DPS does more damage, okay? Good, good. Full screen. What's the full screen button? Control-Shift-F. Hold on. Ah, there we go. We're learning. Great mobility. They have no AoE. They have no party and raid buff. Mid DPS. They're very gear dependent, so they do kind of scale as the expansion goes on. They do have unbelievable defenses with Cloak of Shadow and Evasion and Vanish, really. And then they all got Adrenaline Rush. Big cooldown, big cooldown. Increase your energy regeneration by 100%. So you can just go to town, boys. You can go to town right there. Control-Shift-F. The 3 rogue specs. Combat. This is kind of the go-to. They have Blade Flurry, which is a cleave, and they use swords and daggers typically. Okay. Agility-based melee class, and they can stand toe-to-toe with enemies. Wow, look at that. Assassination. A deadly master of poison who dispatches victims with vicious dagger strikes. Poison focus. Daggers only, but it does, as the slide says, put the ass in assassination. This is probably one of the worst specs in the game. Although, ironically, after that we're getting to subtlety. Good PvP spec. Not good PvP. Sorry, rogues. Sorry. So really, if you're playing rogue in PvE, you play combat, or you can play whatever you want at the end of the day, but you will be judged. Shamans. Oh, please. As I was saying. Shamans! Nature elements. Buttload of utility with totems. 1 per group, though. They kind of only use their totem buffs to buff the group. I know, it's just the epic music. That's all I could think of, man. That's all I could think of. I didn't really plan this out. They do have the best cooldown in the entire game, which is Bloodlust. Dude, the Horde doesn't have good music, though, man. It doesn't have good music. No, we're going back. Shamans! Bloodlust! Should pull this up. Bloodlust, boys. This is the most important cooldown in raiding in World of Warcraft. I'm pulling it up right now. Poof. Increases melee, range, and spellcasting speed by 30% for all party members and it lasts for 40 seconds. It is a 10-minute cooldown. So what you typically do, as you're getting the boss lower and lower, Shadowbolt, 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 Chain Lightning, Chain Lightning. You're getting the boss lower and lower and lower. Eventually, the boss will go into a second phase, third phase, as he's getting down there. Now he's down to 50%, 20% health. The raid leader calls for lust. Whoa! Wait, is there a noise somewhere? Sorry, that was very loud. That was loud. That was loud. But that's the noise. That's the noise. That's when you pop all your cooldowns. And you go ham, boys. You go ham. We call for lust. Execute. Execute phase. That's Shaman cooldown. So anyways. These mail armor, they can DPS and heal. Melee and range DPS, if you will. They have Hex, which is a nice CC. They can Purge. I think they have Hex. They have Hex and TBC? Oof. Shaman Expert doesn't know that. Interesting, interesting, interesting. But they do have Tremor Totem, which is very, very good. Kind of stops you from being feared. Also, purges Charms, which is nice for, I want to say, Slave Pens? Rogue Slave Pens? Also for Nightbane. Need Shamans. Earth Shock, one of the better interrupts. 6-second cooldown. Interrupt. That's insane. That's insane. And Wind Fury Totem. We'll get the Wind Fury Totem in about 15 seconds. The first of the 3 Shaman specs. Restoration. By calling on their spiritual powers, Shamans can restore health to injured players. Wow. Incredible. One of the best group healers. Chain heal. And they have to hard cast everything. It doesn't mean they're a difficult caster to play. I think they're actually probably easier than priests. So I don't know why I had priests were easy. Actually, we do know why, because I'm a shaman biased. But with hard casting everything, they can't really be running around and throwing out a lot of casts. So a druid, you're throwing hots, instant casts, hotting everyone up. That's you casting, by the way, nothing else. Casting your spells, running. Shaman, you're getting hit by something, you gotta just commit to the cast, okay? Which does have its, pros and cons. Pros and cons. Enhancement, second on the shaman list. Now, you might have noticed a YouTuber by the name of Flamyz was playing in Enhanced Shaman these last couple days, okay? That being said, you might have seen a little thing right here. This is not really relevant to TBC because you don't use two-handers, but boys, check this out, man. Check this out.
Trying to casually crew slide a few warglaves.
World PvP. Now we're also on a PvE server, so this also does not matter in that aspect, okay? But work with me, work with me. Look at this. Oh. Boys, we fight him?
Boys, one-shot that guy! Oh my...
Did I block it? I think I blocked it. Play it again.
My god!
I got excited.
This is what...
Trying to... Oh. Boys, we fight him?
Oh, boys, one-shot that guy! Oh...
I liked it. So yeah, Enhancement Shamans. They don't really do that in TBC because they got introduced to dual wield. They enhance their weapons with elemental effects, empowering the blows with power of fire, wind, or ice. That's not really true. It's really just Wind Fury, which is that spell that you just saw. 20% chance on hit to get an extra hit. It's a little bit of a gamma spec, if you will. The gamma scratches that itch. Scratches that itch. They have a slightly harder rotation because of totem twisting, where you're kind of swapping out your Wind Fury totem. We just saw Wind Fury, and Grace of Air. Grace of Air gives agility. See the team. So again, kind of like RuneScape, you'll put down Wind Fury Totem. Wind Fury Totem is not a RuneScape, for the record. Wind Fury Totem. Summons a Wind Fury Totem at 5% health, at 5 health. Within 20 yards, each hit has a 20% chance to grant attacker 1 extra attack. So melee, DPS, they love shamans in their group. You kind of need a shaman in the melee group. Now, it doesn't actually say on here, which is very interesting. But this buff will last about 8 seconds. So what you do is you totem twist. You have this totem down. You buff up your melee. You throw this down. Increase agility. Agility gives everyone crit, a little bit of attack power to certain classes. So now they get the benefits of both buffs. Okay. That being said, it is TBC at the end of the day. Not too difficult of a rotation. And they also have Unleash Rage. Unleash Rage is just a 10% flat attack power buff when a shaman crits. So again, very, very good in the melee group. So all of a sudden you start stacking some of these together. You got the Feral Druid, you got the Hunter, You throw a shaman in there, now everyone's buffing everyone. Everyone's doing more damage, you know? You smell what I'm stepping in? And of course, last but certainly not least, what I plan on playing this expansion. Elemental Shaman. Dorman music. Do, 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 do. Cast DPS. The elemental force of shamans can be used to damage enemies from afar with lightning strikes. Simple rotation. I'm not trying to impress anyone. You push lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, chain lightning. Lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. You guessed it, chain lightning. Lightning bolt, lightning bolt. You get the picture. But that's not why you play shaman. It's fun. You gotta believe me. They start strong, they do fall off kind of as the expansion progresses, I've learned in the last couple of weeks here. So that's okay. But, again, boys, with the utility, they do have Wrath of Air. They do have Wrath of Air. Increases spell damage by 101 if you ever run in the party. Pretty good, pretty good. And they have Totem of Wrath. Ooh, what is Totem of Wrath, you say? Increase the chance to hit and crit. Hit is insane! Insane! Kind of. You get a hit cap and then you don't really need it anymore. But until you hit the hit cap. Pretty good. Pretty good, boys. Pretty good. And that's it. That's shamans. Next on the list, Warlock. TLDR, we could skip the entire slide and just leave it at they're the best DPS in TBC. Yeah, Warlocks are busted. They are busted. All specializations are DPS. Great single target and AoE with a certain little spell called Seed of Corruption. All you do on AoE packs as Warlock, the min-max damage. To do maximum damage, you hit tab, which selects a new target, push Seed of Corruption. You hit tab, select a new target, Seed of Corruption. Rinse and repeat. But you don't even rinse your mouth, because they're kind of dirty. They just keep sending it, man, and they do max damage. It's insane. It is insane. They do have Soul Stones, which is white prevention. You put a buff onto someone, and they can resurrect, which is nice. Fear and Banish, good CC. You got Lock Candy, which is a consumable health potion. You'll have your curses you put out, and you can summon demons as pets. Imp, Voidwalker, Succubus, Fell Hunter, and Felguard. Only for Demo. Demo. The 3 specs of Warlock, what are they, you ask? Oh, I know, you're waiting, you're chomping at the bits. The best class? Well, what specs do we got? We have Affliction, who specializes in damage over time. Dots on dots on dots. Now, I've heard that this can be a fun spec to play because instead of just spamming Seed of Corruption, what you can do is you can kind of dot everyone up. Okay? Dot everyone up. It is good raid-wide debuffs with Valediction and Shadow Embrace. Okay, this is the only of the Warlock specs with these 2 buffs, if I'm not mistaken. Tabs open. On. This. Your Corruption, Curse of Agony, Siphon Life, and Seed of Corruption cause the target to take or to reduce physical damage. It's kind of nice. Nice little party-wide buff. And then Malediction increases 3% elemental bonus. 3% on top of the, what is it, 10%? 10%. So now everyone does 3% more damage. See what I'm saying? So it is nice to have at least one Affliction Warlock in the group. Demonology. Master of Demons, who compelled demonic powers to aid. These are the lamest description. Okay. Now this is, I was getting a little bit confusing reports on this. On Wowhead, the guide that was written by someone said you keep your Felguard alive. And on other sites, it says you don't use Felguard. That being said, it is a demon-focused build. It kind of uses your pet, and it's still a basic rotation, but it does use your pet. This I'm not sure about. But Felguard is kind of a badass. Look at that thing. You get to control one of these. What? Yeah, man. Yeah, but it might not be best. So I don't know. I don't know about that. And last, but certainly not least. Oops. Destro. Master of Chaos calls down fire or shadow to demolish their enemies. They have 2 different builds, fire or shadow, and you'll kind of, A, depending on what phase you are in and what gear you have, and B, depending on your raid comp. If you have a lot of fire mages, or if you have 1 fire mage, fire is very viable. If you have 0 fire mages, you probably want to stay shadow. If you have no shadow priest, you want to go fire. If you have none of either, it doesn't matter because you're a warlock and you still do the most damage, okay? Simple rotation. It's as easy as you put down like a dot or one of these curses. Right there. And then you spam Shadow Bolt. Or you do kind of a, was it Immolate and Incinerate spam or something? Very, very good. Little self buff, little greedy self buff. Look at this. Imp, 15% damage increased. And if you summon your, sacrifice your thing. So they have no pet because of that. They sacrifice their pet. Because they're selfish. They're selfish. They're selfish. Hunter is very good too. Simple rotation. And boys, last but not least, our ugliest of the slides. I was a little burnt out. I was a good, what, 7 hours into making this thing? I'm just kidding. It didn't take that long. Definitely not. Warrior! Melee only DPS and a tank. They have Battle Shot, which increases the party AP. Very gear dependent, so they scale like a beast. They scale like a beast. It is not as good in TBC as it was in Classic, but Classic, it was beyond broken. They also use Rage like our bear tanks, so you kind of will charge up your resource bar, and then you'll spend it. Okay? Charge it up as you hit, spend it. Whereas mana, you start full. They can warp to plate armor. They can use all weapons, besides wands. Good mobility with lots of charges. Big cooldowns. I'm telling you, I was pretty burnt out by this point. I was pretty burnt out. But they have this cooldown called Recklessness. Auto crit chance, immune to fear. Which I don't think you are immune to fear in TBC. That seemed to be not necessarily true. But it gives you auto crit for like 8 seconds. Every single hit. Oh boom! Oh boom! Oh boom! Which brings us to Arms DPS, the first of the specs. Battle-hardened master of two-handed weapon using mobility and overpower good attack to strike down their opponents. Blood Frenzy, which is a raid-wide physical damage buff. Pretty good, pretty good. You'd probably want an Arms Warrior if you have a very physical heavy comp. They're two-handed DPS. And that's kind of it. They do a lot of damage. Not the best. They do good damage. They're viable. They're viable. That's all that matters. Fury, a furious berserker of wielding a weapon in each hand, unleashing a flurry of attacks to carve their opponents to pieces. Dual wield DPS. Not much utility. How'd that get there? And they have Recklessness. Same cooldown as the other one. You kind of just do your own thing. You just do your own thing. If you're the Fury Warrior, you're kind of lucky. You just kind of do this the whole time. And last, but certainly not least, you have Protection, the tank. Now online I was reading, and I don't really remember because all the tanks are good, but the super nerd said that this was the best tank. One-hander shield, easy to get defense cap with shield block, and they're great at absorbing damage from single target. A stalwart protector who uses a shield to safeguard themselves and their allies. My boys, what do we have next? Oh, how did that get there? Oh, Jesus Christ. But, boys, that's all we got for today. That was Welcome to World of Warcraft with Flamyz on Wednesday. W2WOWWFOW on Wednesday. And hopefully, this is kind of actually a decent introduction to how to play, or how to choose a class. If not, we did it anyways. We live and we learn. But that was Welcome to WoW.